What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about the Bitcoin dominance chart today. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Let's get into it. Okay, here we are sitting at about 60.81% right now, and I want to go over some stuff that I went over, I think, about a week ago or whenever I did my last dominance update, but I think it's just fresh. We should keep it fresh in our minds, being that we have a new week here. I very much believe that this was the high. I believe that that was the Bitcoin dominance high of the cycle, and we are about to see the altcoin markets kick off. I think this week right now, this green week, is going to be a bigger red week than the last week was. And I think as we continue down, it's only going to get bigger. We will look back in weeks, in months, maybe even in days. It's not yet, but we will look back soon enough, and everybody in the market is going to say this is when alt season began, was right here at this high. That's when the dominance started to tank. People aren't saying that now. People are skeptical now because they're burnt from last time. But I want to go over that. I want to actually talk about the sentiment of last time and how it relates to this time here. So we're going to look at CoinMarketCap. I like the Fear and Greed Index on CoinMarketCap the most. I think that it's actually more accurate. It seems to be more dynamic than the Crypto Fear and Greed Index here on whatever it is, crypto, which one is it? Alternative.me, right? If we look at this one here, okay, what I want to remind you is we're comparing this high in the dominance where everybody thought that was the high and we were about to see the dominance go down, and this is the beginning of alt season, right? You guys remember that? You remember in November, every headline in crypto, whether it was on mainstream media or YouTube or X.com, or it was your best friend, your neighbor, the guy you talked to at the grocery store, everybody seemed to know that alt season was beginning back here, right? Everybody thought that. I was skeptical to some degree, but at the end of the day, whenever we got this lower high, I was getting convinced that alt season began too, and then I was abruptly proven wrong. But weren't we all? Whatever, it's okay. I was definitely skeptical at here though, right? Where most people were calling for alt season the moment that this week closed. Literally the week of November 18th, the beginning of November 25th, that week, people were calling for alt season. Okay, we go back November 18th, right here, November 18th, 2024. We look at the sorry, I've got all these tabs. Crypto Fear and Greed Index here, November 18th, 2024. This is the 13th. This is the 18th. The Fear and Greed Index was at an 84. The Crypto Fear and Greed Index was at an 84. Bitcoin's price was just below 90K, essentially at $90,000, sitting there at 89.8K on the 18th for a closing price. Sorry, the 17th. That's the 17th. 18th. It was 90,000. It was at 90,000, but at an 83 instead of an 84. So you're at an 83. You're in the green zone here. You can see your colorful line. That's the Fear and Greed Index. You're in the green zone here. That was in direct relation to this high here. When everybody was saying, it's alt season, the dominance is topped off, we're going down after the very first week. The very first, let alone the next 2 weeks. People continue to say it after that, but I'm just saying the very first week, everybody was so keen on saying it, right? Here, after this week, nobody's keen on saying it. Now what's happening in this area is that people are saying alt season is never going to happen. There is no alt season for this bull cycle. Sell your bags and put it all into Bitcoin. Bitcoin, people are becoming Bitcoin maximalists, and that tends to become when Bitcoin maximalism comes to its highest point. That's really whenever you should become an altcoin maximalist, right? So whenever Bitcoin dominance is at its highest point, that's whenever you actually get the most people who have that aha moment that Bitcoin is the most resilient and the most secure bet. It really is the most secure bet, and moments like this show us that. But secure is different than smart, right? The smart bets make you the most money. The secure bets lose you the least money, right? Or have the most chance to gain money without loss, right? That they're safe. Smart doesn't always mean safe, and safe doesn't always mean... I should say safe is probably always smart, actually, but smart doesn't always mean safe. Getting away from my philosophies there. Okay, getting back to this, right? Back here, people were all excited about the alt season starting. Nobody's excited about it now. I am confident here. The difference for me personally, not for the space, but for me personally, I was skeptical here that alt season began. I am confident now that alt season began. Here, everybody was confident alt season began. Now, I wouldn't even say people are skeptical. People are in denial. It's not going to happen. It's not that they're skeptical. People aren't even looking at this as a top, right? I don't hear people talking about it. And not only that, you look at the Crypto Fear and Greed Index, at that same high for the Bitcoin dominance back here, we were at an 83, where now we're at a 38. We're at a 38, we were at 90K then, and the Bitcoin price now is at 96, that we're up $6,000. We're up almost 10%. 6.6%, whatever. We're up something like that, 6 to 10% from the last time that we were here in the Bitcoin dominance. We are more fearful now with higher prices, a more obvious top in the Bitcoin dominance than what we had before. We have bearish divergence on the weekly RSI. It feels beyond obvious to me that what we're about to see is a move down. Now, what I want to get into is the exciting stuff, okay? Beyond just me ranting here and telling you my thoughts, I want to share with you what I also see beyond what I think, what I see. So, if this was the first high, I want to take a basic concept and go from the week that you started dropping, for the last 2 cycles that we've seen the dominance drop, from the week you started dropping, how low did you go within the first 6 weeks? And if your lowest point was in the first 3 weeks, we'll just do that. If your lowest point was in, the first 5 weeks, we can just do that. But if you continue to drop and it takes 7 or 8 weeks, we'll just do the first 6 weeks. I just want to know, in the first month and a half after your high, how much did we see the dominance drop? So last cycle, very comparable top, right? We did not have bearish divergence here, but a double top in the overbought zone, right? Well, I guess it's not a double top, but bearish divergence. That's more of a bearish signal anyways. But much more of a wick up here, just like this one here, very similar. And if we notice from this wick, okay, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Okay, that actually happened to be the low. I promise I didn't do this. I've looked at this chart plenty of times, but I promise you I didn't actually know that. I thought that this ended in like 4 weeks, not 6 weeks. But okay, so 6 weeks, we dropped 19% in the dominance, you guys. That's a big deal. That's a huge deal, you guys. It really is. Let's see, on the next one here, whenever we topped off. Now, this one's a bit trickier because the true top in the dominance, it was all the way back here, right? But we didn't really start to drop in dominance, I would say, until here. We dropped a little bit here. Sure, that was the first bit. We probably had a little bit of an ICO craze, Ethereum and all that stuff, right? Litecoin, new cryptos coming into existence, XRP, right? Taking away from Bitcoin. But I think, no offense, but I think this drop, while it was cute, this was the beginning of the dominance drop. Comparable, I would compare this move down to this move down here, right? I think that that's obvious, right? And even going back, I was going to say, even going back here, you could have said that was the top, but I guess technically it is a lower high, so never mind. That point is moot, but that's when you began moving down. Here is when you began moving down, not back here. That's what I'm going to say. So from the high there, from the high here, how much did you move down in the first 6 weeks? All right, we need the percentage, right? From a high, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 weeks, not 6 weeks, but 5 weeks. We dropped 15%. So 15% is actually less than what we saw last cycle. We saw 19% of a drop. 15% was less. So something between 15 to 19% is what we've seen so far in the first 6 weeks, okay? Assuming this is the high, and I'm pretty confident it is, we'd probably see something between 15 to 19, maybe 20%. We can just say 15 to 20%. We've already dropped 6%. 15% was the minimum that we saw, right? That would take us below these lows. That would confirm Altseason is happening. And then likely, by the time that we confirm that Altseason is happening, we're probably at the end of Altseason, right? We're at that last little phase. Everybody starts to get in on that last phase into altcoins, and then the dominance retraces a little bit. And then we continue with our Altseason. It probably doesn't retrace this much. It probably only retraces a little bit, or Bitcoin itself starts to gain some dominance, starts to move up while altcoins are consolidating. But at the very least, I would expect, if we're going to see at least a 15% move down, then that move would take us to this low. And if we make from a high here all the way down to this low, I would think we go lower. If we go lower, and we take a low to a high here and we use our fibs, the minimum expected target would be here, which is about a 19% drop, which is the maximum that we've seen happen so far. It all makes sense. It all makes sense to me, man. And in fact, I want to make sense out of one more thing, out of why not only are people wrong about there not being an alt season, but why this might be the most explosive kickoff to an altcoin season that we've ever seen before, at least as far as dominance dropping percentage-wise is concerned. Okay, here's my theory. Here's my logic behind it, right? So the reason why I think we will actually see a greater drop in the first 6 weeks than we've ever seen before, something greater than 19%. One, the fibs allow for it. It allows for, a 21% drop, 23% drop. And again, the difference between a 19% drop, you guys, and a 21% drop, that is huge for altcoins, okay? It really is. Every percent matters. It's different. It's different than a price chart, right? This is a totally different thing. This is price between 1 to 100. You were literally taking 1% back of the total crypto market cap. The total crypto market cap, you guys, is $3.18 trillion. So 1% of that is, what is that? That's like tens of billions of dollars, right? That's literally tens of billions of, 1% would be $31 billion. I'm pretty sure, if I'm doing my math correctly there, right? Because 100 billion would be 10%, so 1% would be 10 billion, yeah, of a trillion. Anyways, before I get distracted here, right? I'm trying to validate why I think we could see something greater than a 19%, which again, 19% was the biggest drop that we've seen in the dominance in the first 6 weeks. It was actually just below 19%. That level comes in at our minimum target. So it checks out that likely we would see something around 52%. That part makes sense. We're going to try to make sense now out of why it could go lower. Okay. And I'm going to leave this here. I'm actually going to pull up a different chart so I don't forget where I am there. BTC.D. Let's go on a weekly basis. Yeah, let's do this. So if we go to the year of 2016, July 2016, it was July 9th, 2016 was the second Bitcoin halving. So it would have been this week when we started to drop in the dominance. It was here 34 weeks later. 34 weeks, right? We started to drop here, but that was the real drop 34 weeks later. 34 weeks after the halving, and that's whenever we dropped. 2020, May 11th, that was the next halving. And we started to drop here. We had our top at 33 weeks, 33, 34. Okay, pretty similar in drops too, right? We saw a 19% drop, just under a 19% drop, just over a 15% drop. I say pretty similar. I guess it's not super similar, but they're, within a few percents of each other. Even on this chart, that's similar, right? Just like this, it's a whole week away from each other, but it's still pretty similar, right? Here from this halving in April 20th was this most recent halving, 2024, to this high here. We have consolidated or seen Bitcoin rise in dominance for a longer period by far, by nearly 10 weeks from the last cycle and like 8 weeks from the cycle before, right? A long period of time, months longer at the very least, right, than what we've seen before. If we consolidate longer from the halving, from a very historically key point in the Bitcoin and crypto cycle, is it possible, since the dominance has been allowed to run up higher, that it might not just be overdue for a drop, but that might cause the drop to be more extreme than anything else we've seen, at least at first. I'm not saying that it has to be. I mean, I don't think it's going to be. You literally can't be more extreme than this drop, because if you did, you'd be at negatives, and we can't do that, right? You could be more extreme than this drop overall, but I don't know if you will. I think you'll be more extreme at first, and it'll give this notion. Everybody will think that this altcoin. Watch everybody, literally, you guys, watch everybody go from talking about how there's no alt season to, by the end of March, everybody's going to say this alt season is going to be better than the last one. And then right when they say that, that's when it's time to get out of altcoins, right? But watch, unlike last cycle where you started off lackluster and then you finished with the bang, I bet you start with the bang. And I'm not saying you finish lackluster, but I bet you start with the bang here, and then we'll see how it goes afterwards, okay? So I hope that all makes sense. I hope my thoughts are clear. If you like the video, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I just want to get it in your mind that this 6-week period here, of which we're on week number 2. It's 6 weeks starting from here. So from the top, week number 2. Within the next 4 weeks from now, we got a whole week here. So basically 5 weeks, you guys. We're going to see a drop in the dominance that will take us below this low. The Bitcoin dominance will drop about, at least from here, probably something that's greater than 11%. From a high to a low here, we saw the Bitcoin dominance drop about that same amount, and it's likely going to be bigger from this current price, let alone from the high. It's from the current reading, it's likely going to be even bigger than this. But last time that we dropped 11% on Bitcoin dominance, crypto as a whole, right? Where was it? It was the 18th. Crypto as a whole pumped from a low, because this is the other chart. This is the average crypto outside of the top 10. Crypto as a whole pumped 138% across the space. Okay. If we're going to drop more in the Bitcoin dominance than what we saw last time, might we pump more across the space too? Might we see something that is bigger than 138%? I certainly would think so. I certainly would think so. From a high to a low, that's perfect. That's probably up in our golden ratio zone, or a little higher than that even, right? I wonder too if we take this high to low. I'm all over the board, man. Yeah, something like that. It makes sense on multiple fronts, you guys. It's happening now. Whether you like it or not, it's happening now, and it'll only become more obvious as the weeks go on. This video is going to age like fine wine, or at least I hope it does. Hit that like button, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy. Bye bye.